Hello everyone, please take your time to read the disclaimer because these live streams are only for educational purposes. We are not financial advisors, so every trade you take based on the ideas shared on the live stream are your own responsibility. Welcome, fellow Cryptopians, to our weekly crypto analysis live stream session, where we continuously will provide value by sharing our weekly analysis and expectations for the upcoming week. So let's get started and make some good analysis. Exciting times today. Bitcoin has finally reached the milestone of 50k again, which is a pretty important area, as this will further validate our next direction in the market. From the moment on we broke 3.2k, we pretty much knew that Bitcoin was going for 40k, and after 40k was gonna reach 50k. That was always in our minds, that was always the target. 50k, however, were very uncertain times because we have very conflicting price action in this area, and we are pretty much biased 50-50 on it, right? On the 50k level, the thing we can expect basically before we continue the analysis on today, we basically have two different scenarios. Scenario one is when Bitcoin made this huge uptrend all the way since it really left the station since 10k. Technically, we even visited the bottom at 4k, but the really big run up towards the 50k on Bitcoin and even 65k on this run up really started at 10k, when the moment 10k was broken as a psychological level again after a long time, and after we basically retested the 10k area. After that, we saw a huge uptrend all the way to 65k. Basically, we have two scenarios right now. This is like the first big correction on a large scale, because we basically saw Bitcoin going from 65k all the way down to 30k, which is basically more than a 50% correction in the market. And this can just be a large correction inside an even bigger bull run. Okay, a large scale correction inside an even bigger bull run. However, because the weekly painted such a strong bearish candle and basically made us lose more than 50% of value, we must not forget the fact that this could also be a lower high to lower regions for basically the market making a correction right now. That's the beginning of the bear market, an equally large correction, but then the correction, which is right now a move up. Yes, if we're downtrending, remember, if we're downtrending, a correction is seen as an upward move, a move where the price appreciate, well, where assets appreciate in price. So basically, when Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Zilliqa, doesn't matter which coin out there, basically goes up in price, only to come down even further and revisit supply levels and then come down again. Because if we have to be honest, there is downside potential. We can't ignore that fact. Bitcoin made a huge upward movement since 10k, which is fairly large and very strong. And we can potentially fall lower than this. Okay, that's something we must not ignore. Now, how do we approach this, and how do we really know if this is, for example, a correction inside an even bigger bull run or just a correction for a downward movement? We pretty much analyze this top right here and see if we can find confluence on a lower time frame, and see if Bitcoin starts to maybe start to paint like a small Wyckoff pattern where we see prices stall, the buy pressure largely waning off, and where we see then the market breaking support and breaking structure levels and then retesting it to the downside. When we see something like this, then it might be time to reevaluate our decisions and maybe like, okay, I made enough money on this run and I'm taking some profits only to reinvest them. So only to basically buy them back lower by actually compounding our profits and gaining more profits in the long run, okay? I know right now that on Twitter, for example, the whole cryptocurrency market is incredibly bullish. Gurus left and right are saying we're going to see Bitcoin 100k, just as they were when Bitcoin was trading at 50k, at 60k. They were also telling everybody like, okay, at 60k buy Bitcoin, it's a dip. Bitcoin going from 65k to 60k, they were calling this is a dip. Buy it right now because we're going very much all the way back to 100k in one straight line. This can't happen in one straight line, of course. Cryptocurrency is just like any other asset out there. We need to follow the laws of supply and demand. We need to follow order flow. And order flow dictates that if we're going up, we also need to come down. And eventually, the harder we go up, without retracement, the stronger the pullback. Okay, that's just to bring balance into the markets, which is entirely normal and expected. Okay, so basically, this is on the weekly perspective. It's not. Please take into mind, guys, because this might be a retail trap. I call this a retail trap because right now we are trading at $50,200. This is a whole supply level, you know. On the weekly, this is the origin of the move. So basically, anywhere between 50 and 60k is a region, an entire region, where we can potentially see bearish price action. It's not that we broke 50k, or let's say we're trading at 50.2k, which is already $200 trading above 50,000, that we really ignored this psychological level and will really break through with all our might, with all our force, and go to 100k area. Okay, it's not uncommon, and it happens a lot, that prices reverse at psychological level. 30k was also a strong psychological level, and for example, to put things into perspective, let's look on the daily. Can you see how many times, for example, Bitcoin went under the 30k level, even went to 28.5k, 28.7k, and here 29k. Okay, a few times we have managed to close up below it, and prices dropping below 30k, but still validating 30k as a strong level and going up even more. The same thing can happen with that 50k level. Okay, do you know what the most ideal scenario right now is to further validate our bullish strength on the smaller time frames, like on the daily and on the 4 hours? We are also painting market structure. It's not only on the weekly that we see bullish market structure. On the daily, we also see bullish market structure, but at some point in time, we will have to correct a little bit. It can be a large correction, it can be a short correction, but the ideal scenario where I am like fully convinced and where this level is fully invalidated is when the market manages to stay a little bit above 50k, maybe even go a little bit higher than this, and then start dropping, correcting, but then show signs of accumulation. Okay, that's something you would ideally like to see. And when the market then breaks out of that accumulation zone, then you got the full validation, the full proof, where you can safely take this thing all the way to the upside, because it's highly likely that in this case scenario, Bitcoin is not only going to all-time highs, but also going beyond the all-time highs, because we're still in a large-term uptrend, and we might even be potentially going to 100k. Okay, so that's something I'm looking at as a full confirmation of this further uptrend. Okay, vice versa, if we very soon, because we also have to look for a bearish perspective, guys, don't marry a bias. It's not that the whole world says buy, 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 buy. You saw how this end up in 2017 when the whole world says buy, then price seems to start dropping, which makes sense, right? Well, it makes sense once you know how trading order flow works, etc., etc. Vice versa, okay, we also now, because the whole world is saying like, yes, you should buy, you should sell, do this, do that, and we're all going to the moon in one straight line. Guys, choose your own analysis, follow the right people, follow the right education, And yes, I got a few good friends of mine who are also very, very bullish. But if I have learned one thing is don't always marry someone else's bias. Don't always follow that guy, because at the end of the day, he's also making his analysis out of his own personal opinion. And sometimes they also have their own agenda. If I'm saying it brutally, if I'm being brutally honest, remember? So sometimes it also means when you have a lot of people recommending coins even at high prices, that's also sometimes because they are themselves holding a big bag of that certain altcoin out there. And of course, that altcoin is going to continue appreciate in price, so basically going up, if other people start to buy it, or if they keep buying it, right? When I buy a coin at $5 and it's still rising at $15, that means people are still buying at $15. It's as simple as that. And if I'm starting to promote this coin, etc., then yeah, people will continue to buy, even though $15 might not be the best entry possible, because remember, we came from $5. Buying Bitcoin right now is also not a good thing. Okay, don't get me wrong on this. If in a week or in 2 weeks time we're trending higher, don't say like, yo, Alusha, you told me, or at Ars Academy, but I myself as Alusha, as educator, don't point fingers at me and say like, yo, you told us not to buy Bitcoin and look where we're at. It's all based from a long-term profitable level, okay, from a profitable strategy. Buying right now is incredibly bad from a risk to reward perspective. Because why? Support is all the way down here. And what is your target going to be, right? When you were supposed to be buying was when you saw prices accumulating, prices stalling, basically this decline stopping, and at between 30 and 35k. I'm not gonna say you should be buying at 30k, because buying at 30k for a lot of people is incredibly difficult, even for me. Because remember, confirmation always happens after a bottom is formed, something like that. When you see like a higher low, you're like, okay, maybe I'm gonna catch this entry. But this entry has a 25k and the bottom was at 22k. So you're never gonna be buying the exact bottom. You also don't need to be buying the exact bottom to make money. You also don't need to be selling the exact top to be making money. You just have to buy with confirmation and with a good risk to reward level. In 2 weeks, if you start buying right now, and if you're right, then you're right. You're only gonna win minimal amount of money because you're already buying high. If you're wrong, however, then you're gonna lose way more than you're gaining. When you're wrong, you're gonna lose thousands and thousands of dollars, depending on the amount of investment you made, with minimal amount of profit. Okay. If you wait until you see evidence in the market, for example, if you buy at low levels, at these levels where you see, okay, the lows are at 30k, 30k is a potential profitable level, you start buying after confirmation. For me, that confirmation was after the break of the 32k area, which I talked a lot about on my Twitter, which I talked about on the Artist Academy, which I talked about friends about, basically on my Discord channels, on everywhere where I could. I was telling people, okay, 32k level is a very strong level. It's also the origin of a sell-off, which is basically a bearish order block. And once we break that order block, we pretty much have a lot of reason to go up again. Okay. If you take a trade right here, it's not at the exact bottom, but from a risk to reward level, even till the first hurdle, the first take profit at 50k, is already a very strong level, or a very strong risk to reward level. Even if you're not taking a sniper entry, we could potentially even even raise this risk to reward level by making this a 1 to 10 if we're going to take an entry on a lower time frame. But if you're just looking at the daily, just making things simple, we don't want to overcomplicate things on these calls, especially for the new people on here. But basically, if you look around the daily on one single time frame, without even a killer entry, you would still be able to get 4 times more profits out of it than you would lose. Okay, which is still good. Okay, winning 4 times as much as losing is always a yes in my book. Okay, so that being said, that was a good word, but right now, remember, the drawdown is potentially enormous, so buying right now isn't the smart thing to do. That also means I will be buying, if needed, higher than this, but because I can lower my risk to reward. Right now, the risk doesn't add up. That means at 50k level, I would not be buying by it now. Let's say we're going to 55k, and I'm like, okay, these levels have been broken. we're going to 60k, for example, 62k. My levels have been cleared. This right now becomes a breaker, and I have full confirmation this thing is going up. Then I will wait. Prices will sooner or later, even if we go all the way to 60k from now on, prices will sooner or later correct for a medium amount. That can be for $5,000, it can be $10,000, but trust me on this, eventually you will get your entry. And then when prices start to stall, start to retest, because usually we always see a retest, and then start to accumulate again, that means I will happily, and again happily, buy at 55k or 57k, even though I skipped the 50k area. But in this case scenario, I know, okay, support has been formed, a new bottom has been made, and this is how my trade looks like. Okay, going all the way to around that k area with like a 1 to 9 risk to reward. So basically I'm gaining 9 times as much as I'm losing, for example. This is just from hypothetical perspective. This is just a scenario that I drew, which will pretty much follow through. So I'm pretty confident that a scenario like this eventually will happen. The only thing, guys, that's theoretical is I don't know the volatility, right? This is just like a hypothetical scenario. The moves up and down can be very much larger. It doesn't automatically have to be at 55k. It can be at 60k. It can be at 50k. Remember, but something like that will probably present itself eventually, very similar like this, and then start to go up. So in this case scenario, I would happily buy higher with more confirmation, because right now when I'm wrong, I'm not losing much. But right now, if you're wrong and you're buying today, you're in a world of pain. Okay, so this goes a little bit against what most people are saying. I know that, but I'm not most people. I also have a more experience than most people, not by being too confident about myself, because I'm not. But basically, I've seen what the entire cryptocurrency community does. I've seen what fake gurus are telling. I've basically am known for telling sometimes the opposite of what other people are doing with success. Okay, I have witnessed 2 previous bull and bear cycles. This is the 3rd time I've been going through it. I've stayed there in the bull market. I've stayed there in the bear market. I was recommending Bitcoin at 6 and 3k when the whole world wasn't. Okay, and especially for the people on this call that know me, you know I did, because a lot of people on these calls have probably been following me for years right now, including a lot of my friends. Especially on my Instagram, I've been pretty vocal about this. I've been pretty talking about this a lot. And Artis Academy, we believe by providing the right information, or at least bringing out the right information to people, right? And that's basically what we're doing, using my experience, because I've been more involved with more than 5 years in this markets, and I basically know what works and what doesn't work. Okay, and even though if you're getting profit out of it, remember, you just got lucky. If you're right now buying and it ends up after all, then by all means applaud yourself. It was a good thing. It wasn't a smart trade decision. Yes, you made money, but that doesn't mean it was a smart trade decision. If you take a decision like this, for example, every week, every month, yes, you can maybe have luck, and yes, you can tell me 2 months, yo, Alish, I'm winning a lot of money 2 times in a row right now. Previous month I was profitable. The month before I was also profitable. I'm like, okay, great. But trust me, trading is something in the long term. You can become a millionaire in 1 month. 1 month, if you're gonna win $5,000 in 1 month, great. If you're gonna win $5,000 in that next month, also great. But trust me on this, if you're using the same model with a bad risk to reward, that 3rd month you will lose $10,000 to $15,000, and afterwards you will tell me, like I'm telling you, like, okay, how's it going for you? Are you rich yet? And I'm like, no, I lost everything. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Like I said, I've been in 2 previous bull and bear cycles before, and right now this is the 3rd one, where we are in a psychological market that's incredibly driven by emotions, greed, fear, and that's just the nature of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is an incredibly emotional driven market where everything can happen. Also, a lot can be gained, but also a lot can be lost. So be very careful about that. That's why I say I would never recommend buying at levels like these. Just like I never recommended people like buying at 50 and 60k the first time we got there. Okay, why? Because at that point in time, this is how the market was looking like. We went all the way up from here. So buying at 50, 60k, it was only a matter of time until we saw a correction. That correction right now happened. We could potentially further correct even more, But this could also have been the correction that we needed, and we're going up even more. Okay, going up again. But just guys, remember, wait for accumulation again. I would much rather wait a little bit till the market does something like this and then buy it, even if that means buying higher than we currently are. But like I said before, we are buying with more confirmation, and we are making a model, a strategy that's sustainable in the long run. All right. So that's being said. Now, if we're talking about Bitcoin solely, right now, the thing that we need to do is we need to combine the weekly, because right now in the weekly we're in a sell zone. However, this is a sell zone, but this just screams buy all over. Well, just bullish, basically. Not really buy all over, but you get the picture. Basically, bullish, bullish, bullish. What I mean by bullish is, basically, we got our lows into very simplistic terms, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low. And we have never managed until now, even right now, even now not, even right now at the moment, we have never managed to break structure to the downside. So basically it means the bullish pressure is still intact. We still have bullish market structure. So there's no reason, the daily when we zoom in, when we were not looking at a sell area, that this could be a sell right now. So nor should we, nor will we. I am also not taking profits yet on my altcoins. I have a lot of altcoins. I even have Bitcoin, I have Ethereum running in my back, and I keep them running. Okay? A lot of these coins, I am not selling them yet. Okay, I'm selling them after bearish pressure, because selling at the top is incredibly difficult. So I'm not doing that, but I will happily sell at the lower high, for example, and regaining, or at least keeping a lot of my profits that was being made at the higher low or at the beginning of the reversal to the upside. Okay. So right now, no belief thing. What we want to see is if we are really bearish, which we aren't yet, but we could potentially be, is basically we want this wave to combine with the fact on the larger time frame. Like right now, the market is doing like this, but we want this to become like this, because then this aligns. Okay, because then we have a bearish wave on the weekly, but we also have the beginning of a bearish wave on the daily. If, however, the weekly is potentially painting for this, but if the daily is just doing like that, then this doesn't happen right here. Okay, so basically what we have is like, but if the turnaround does not happen, then we stay bullish. Okay, so basically what we want to do is we want to find confluence on multiple time frames, and on multiple time frames, the daily is still saying buy, bullish. The weekly is saying potentially bearish. Potentially, right? On the very long run, the weekly is still bullish, because this, we can't ignore this wave right here. But if we zoom in a little bit on the last few candles, then this is a potentially bearish zone where a lower high could be being formed, okay? If there's a lower high being formed right here, then we will know a lot more. Right now it isn't yet, but this is a bearish order block, and a bearish order block can highlight an area where we could potentially fall down to the downside even more, okay? But that's not the case right now. As of today, which I've been telling for a long time, as long as this hasn't been made on Bitcoin, then by all means continue to place buys on altcoins, continue to look for daily trade setups. Like for example, like Rune from last week. Rune was incredibly bullish. 4 hours. We saw a very bullish wave. This is something I'm looking for on Bitcoin as well, by the way. It already happened on Rune. I've placed the last couple of weeks an incredible amount of trades on Rune, by the way. Because we clearly see the uptrend, the higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. Then we see a correction in this place, and after a correction, we see accumulation. And if you have an outbreak to the upside after accumulation, then oh boy, that's a very strong setup. Usually these are the strongest setups on the long term. Okay, so if I see something like that on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin in the short term is gonna correct a little bit and then provide some sort of accumulation area, accumulation zone where you potentially see this, and then when that thing breaks to the upside, and then on that retest we try to catch that entry, and then oh boy, we're in for a good run, and we are potentially setting up to go towards a 100k Bitcoin. Okay, so that's a very bullish scenario, which right now is also happening on Rune. Yeah. Then Zilliqa also happened on Zilliqa, very powerful on Zilliqa. This also, there was something I was looking at yesterday. Zilliqa right now forming support. Any trade that's being made on Zilliqa is also for buy. So basically, if you see prices coming back to this area, to the support area, that's considered a good buy. Or that's at least what I would consider a good buy, because there's an order block in this area, which is support. So if you look at the 4 hour, and we still have upside potential because I still see prices rallying towards the 16 cents area, especially if Bitcoin manages to become stable. Unless Bitcoin becomes bearish, then all altcoins should still be going up and basically bringing balance into the market because we saw a large correction. 4 hour wise, this means this is a great re-entry area, guys. So if you would be working with limit entries, remember, not financial advice, but I will tell how something like that looks like. Then I would be looking to catch Zilliqa. It's something like this. Stop loss below the order block. I would have to above it. And then going for like a 1 to 7, for example. This would look like a good trade on the top of that black line. Something like this. If you are trading with no we have confirmation that it's an uptrend, right? But you can actually even further validate your confirmation and heighten up your accuracy. This is personally not how I trade, but it's very similar. This is already a profitable model that I know that works, and I would be if I had less free time. I spend a lot of time after my charts, so I do things differently. I pretty much look for the same entry, because this is, for example, this is my POI. You can call it support, you can call it demand zone, it's all the same thing. Demand, POI, basically the point of interest, etc, etc. Doesn't matter how much you want to name it, but basically this is our area. The area where I will be looking for an entry, but you can also wait until this move right here on the smaller time frames when you zoom in, or basically go to the 1 hour, for example, and then see if prices are correcting a little bit. And when it's correcting, it will create a downtrend. Not a downtrend on the long term, but a downtrend when you zoom in. A downtrend on the 15 minutes, for example, or on the 1 hour when you zoom in. It's going to create market structure. And when market structure is beginning to form, that's when at some point in time it will hit the POI. It will create a reaction of the POI, still testing the bearish structure, because right here there will be a bearish POI then again for day traders. It will test that bearish order block, continue to the downside, and then eventually it will consolidate and will begin a battle between buyers and sellers. Once the market breaks structure right here, that's your cue, and trust me, we're going up. Or at least from a statistical model, we are going up. And that's where I will be looking to take my trades, with stop loss below structure, right here. And then with a target that I see fit, or at least think a target that's going to be hit. Okay? Something like this. That's how I personally always trade. I trade more like this model, but this model takes a little bit more confirmation, a little bit more time, but it will have more accuracy. But like I said, by all means, if you have less free time, usually, even though, like I said, the accuracy will be a little bit lower. Why? Because you don't see the momentum shift. What I'm doing is basically doing this. Looking for a momentum shift and then entering the trade. If you're entering a trade right now blindly on a POI, this is a great POI. But if you're taking a trade blindly, with first we're not taking a trade blindly, by the way, guys, because we already have confirmation. We see an upbreak to the upside, and we see a strong order block of accumulation, and this will likely be retested and create a reaction to the upside. So we basically already have a first confirmation, but you can also add a second confirmation to it, and that second confirmation is the momentum shift on that retracement. But if you don't want to do that, then by all means do it like that. Stop loss below there, and then you usually also got a good trade. So I'm looking at something like this on Zilliqa, which will especially be a very strong entry if Bitcoin remains stable. On Ripple, I actually got a trade myself on today, so it might be a good trade for you guys to take with me, or at least look with me towards this. Personally, what I'm seeing on Ripple right now, XRP, from a trading perspective, guys, by the way, I'm not really the biggest fan of investing into Ripple on the really long term. I've been doing this for years, and with good reason, and with good accuracy, and with good success. While you can blame me anything on this, but basically Ripple has to, as of this day, still be one of the worst performers. It used to be top 10. Right now, Ripple, where are we currently? I remember we're top 6. Okay, still decent, still top 6 coin. Okay, but basically Ripple is one of the only top performers from the past that has not even came close to its all-time high. I would maybe see this as a good thing, but yeah, I'm not going to go into much detail on this, guys, because that might be better for our Friday sessions or Friday educational sessions, where I can go more into detail on why Ripple or why not Ripple, or at least XRP, because XRP is not Ripple, by the way, which I also will be maybe becoming go into more contact. But based on price action alone, I clearly can see structure. We made a lot of bullish structure to the upside since the entire bull run. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, since 16 August, correcting a little bit, coming back to a POI. Point of interest, why? Order block. Order block are very strong re-entry potentials. We're hitting that POI. In the POI, we're creating bullish structure. Again, doing the same strategy that I told on Zilliqa. What is the market doing right now? It broke out. And the market is doing this. Oh! What did it do? It broke structure. Basically, it did this. It's changing momentum. And right now we have a higher high confirmed on a smaller time frame. Basically on the 1 hour, if you would look, it would be very clear. Where you see like lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Oh, lower highs being broken, higher high, first confirmed. Higher lows confirmed. And then good to go, okay? So that's basically what's happening right now. Right now we are making higher highs on the 4 hour. And we know the market has still more room to go to the upside because these are the higher regions. I'm being a little bit cautious of the $1.5 region, but potentially we could even go higher than this because if Bitcoin is going to break all-time highs, then Ripple also will be breaking all-time highs. But my first target would definitely be 1.50, putting a little bit lower because it's also a psychological level. And by the way, for those wondering, yes, psychological levels do work in cryptocurrency. They work incredibly well. Psychological levels are always a reason to be looking for a little bit of profits, or also vice versa, looking for buys, okay? So that being said, right now Ripple is trending up again, getting very close to the higher regions, or at least the high from last week. And it's probably gonna break that. As long as Bitcoin remains stable, or if Bitcoin is gonna do a bearish move, then by all means Ripple is going to go down with it. Because that's how Bitcoin works. Bitcoin is the DXY of Forex. It basically means like a lot of coins has an incredible amount of confluence with Bitcoin. And that basically means when Bitcoin is going down, altcoins are going down. If Bitcoin remains stable, might also be a good thing for altcoins, or at least it usually is. But based on the price action, I see right now from a technical perspective, this thing looks bullish. So right now, this might be a while where I expect price to rally. Especially if on the 15 minutes, which I'm particularly keen on looking at. Especially if on the 15 minutes, prices are doing something like this. And then it's go time, because then we have lower high. We basically have a structure break inside the POI, and that's something what you want. And that's more confirmation out there. Will you always win? And basically always be a profitable trading using this? Of course, not every trade is being won. There's always nothing is foolproof, you know. There's always a few trades that's gonna go wrong, but you try to minimize the loss and you try to maximize the amount of profits you make. So basically, if we're doing that, then it's basically, it got my full confirmation, it's good to go. Right now it's already going good to go, but like I said before, you can basically take a trade like this towards the upside. But the only thing, and that's the reason why you have less accuracy, right now it's doing this, but it could also be doing this. Compared to if you're looking at market structure break, then you really see the market doing the momentum shift. Right now we don't know if there's going to be a momentum shift on the 15 minute or on the 1 hour. Right now it's correcting a little bit. But is there going to be a momentum shift? If you're taking entry, the momentum shift might just follow through. And then you got a really good trade going on. But like I said, if you don't see the momentum shift, then of course you might still have a good trade, but at least with a little bit less of an accuracy model. The accuracy will be less than otherwise. So let's see how Ripple looks like, but this is definitely a trade I'm looking at on Ripple. Still painting bear sector. We still have lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Okay. So basically that's how it's looking right now. Either way, it's going to do a reversal inside the POI, or I might be jumping the gun a little bit early, but that's only early if I see plenty of accumulation going on. And that's also a reason to be joining if you see something like this. Then you just delete this setup and enter a setup a little bit higher because the reversal has already been made. Okay? That's only if you follow the change of momentum method. Like I said before, guys, just an entry like this also looks beautiful. Although there's always a chance of the market not tapping into your POI, not tapping into your entry and leaving without you. But that's perfectly fine, and then you just move on to another entry. Okay? I think we talked about this last week, guys. Qcoin, incredibly bullish. I very much like Qcoin for a very lot of reasons. Glad to see Qcoin doing well since last week. Having a beautiful re-entry on that breaker. And really appreciating the price well. What else are we seeing? So basically XRP and Zilliqa are setting up for another day trade. Rune incredibly bullish. Rune, let's see on a 4-hour level. Rune is a little bit less. There's a potential POI right here, but Rune is a little bit less clean than it was like last weekend, because last weekend Rune was incredibly clean. So we're not gonna force trades just to look for one. So basically Rune, the trade on Rune already happened, and it's well worth towards going its targets. But if I would provide another trade entry for Rune right now, that would be pretty difficult because market structure isn't as clean as it was right here. VeChain, still think this was a stop loss. No, basically this was a trade entry where I pretty much told people to place a stop loss or at least a stop profits, because this was like the ultimate trade on VeChain, which I made a few weeks ago. With like a 10, there was like a 10 to 1 if I'm not mistaken. But basically, this is the level of invalidation of the for that one. But VeChain also looking right, pretty strong, but also not the best. Not the best price action for looking at the re-entry right now. Basically, that means the trade should have already been happened, so we're skipping that from that one. Same thing like this. Try as it already happened. Was something I was also looking at last week, so I already took action on this. But basically, accumulation, breakout of accumulation zone, retesting the bullish order block, and then going up. VRA. VRA might be looking at a potential new setup. It was something I made long ago at the reversal. Yeah, I have been trading VRA for a lot because VRA, I've been basically taking this entire move up since 10 cents or basically 1 cent. 0.010 was also psychological level. When that level was broken, retested, pretty much the uptrend was imminent. Right now, let's see if VRA, it's actually looking quite fine. VRA is breaking structure again. It's validating a small time frame bullish order block. It's breaking structure into it. So potentially, this is what I would be looking at. This entire region, especially this one right here. I think it's pretty powerful. So for VRA, remember when we're buying right now, we are buying high. So do not take this trade for a really long term just because of the fact you're already buying high. It's only when you're trading right now, for example, something like VRA, use it as a day trade or at least a short-term momentum trade, because it's only a matter of time until this thing starts correcting, right? That doesn't mean you can still take trades mid-term or short-term, but on a long term, a daily trade, for example, would be looking like a correction like this, where you start to see accumulation again, and then we then potentially see a continuation of the accumulation. Okay, and that on the daily isn't happening right now. On the 1 hour, we do see a structure break, which could potentially lead into a trade. I would be taking like something like this. It's something to the upside depending on where you want to take your profits. Where is the previous all-time high, by the way? This could be a potential target. Just on the 1 hour. Let's go to the 1 hour. zoom in a little bit and see something like this going on. That's something I would be looking for on VRA, potentially. Okay, but it's less clean than Zilliqa and XRP. I much rather prefer Zilliqa and XRP, which are looking to set up at a pretty better buy right now. Even XRP, how is it going right now? Still wanted to take a look back at the 15 minutes. 15 minute, okay. Kind of consolidating right now, it might be a good sign. Maybe maybe another small push up to the downside might still hit into an entry, and otherwise it's still going to go up because I'm still having, either way, if we're correcting a little bit more or if we're not correcting more, I either way have a bullish bias. So if it's not going to do this, then I'm looking for a potentially other setup. I will be deleting this setup if I see something like this, and if Ripple is done breaking up to the upside, especially if it's gonna break this bearish order block. There is a small bearish order block inside this area, so if it's gonna break this area, I'm expecting Ripple to do something like this, and then go to the upside, right? And then the setup will more likely look something like this than the other setup, right? That's something I'm looking into. But we don't have that scenario being met right now. Let's take a look if we can find something else. That's most of my trades that I'm looking at. Quant, I like Quant from an investment perspective. This was also, it already hit my target of $200. Whenever this bearish order block was broken, I was pretty confident it was going to go towards 200k levels, $200 levels, excuse me. Noya might be better to take on thing. If Noya breaks structure right here, I'm also expecting Noya to go up even further. Right now Noya is inside a daily order block, which is this one. So if Noya is gonna do a momentum shift right here, let's see in the 4 hour what your momentum shift looks like. So basically on Noya, especially if it's like breaking this high, this could also be high, but I'm potentially taking this high as a stronger confirmation. So if Noya right now is doing something, oh, excuse me, when I have my daily order block back, so if Noya, then potentially Noya is right now doing something like this. And if then it's basically creating structure, and then it's going to go up, because then we have the lower highs being broken. Okay, that's something I'm looking at on Noya, and Noya for a long term is an incredibly strong investment perspective. I really like Noya a lot because of the fact of what they're doing. They're basically becoming the future of internet, providing faster internet, quicker internet for everybody. But basically, yeah, if you want to know more about Noya, then yeah, I would advise you guys to be looking at a certain article that I wrote on Noya, because Noya I like for a lot of reasons. Quite some time ago. Where is it again? Here we go. No, almost. Because I sometimes write articles for some. Noya, rethinking the internet for everybody, and then you can pretty much see yourself what it's all about. Adoption was rapid. We are using an outdated internet structure, or at least the cables we are using for internet today is pretty slow, pretty outdated. And basically what Noya wants to do is basically redefining the internet infrastructure, okay? Removing internet traffic, or at least lowering them, less latency, ideal for gamers, ideal for traders. What Noya is going to do is going to be very interesting for traders as well. Very low downtime, no lag, immediate price action viewable on your screen with very less downtime, less data being used, etc, etc. Some things like that, okay? That's what Noya was doing, that's why I believe in them on the long term. Quant, also something which I really believe in the long term. I caught this thing back in the day from $1, and a lot of people can confirm this because I was basically recommending this from $1.50. That's a long time ago. I still see problems, but I would not really recommend anyone to buy Quant today. Even though I really like Quant, I'm a big believer of Quant, one of my most bullish backs ever. Not from a trading perspective, but from an investment perspective. But basically, remember we haven't made a huge upwave. If we go to the weekly, See how much of an uptrend we had. Even in a bearish market when Bitcoin was correcting from 60k to 30k, Quant was breaking all-time highs, so that was incredibly bullish. And it still is incredibly bullish, but it's only a matter of time when you see things like this declining. Okay, guys, another lesson of today: never fall for FOMO, the fear of missing out, because that will generally lead to losses. Okay, I've seen a lot of people who are making mistakes. Even though if they are buying the right project, you can actually still make losses by buying the right project because you've been buying at the wrong time. And we're still investors and we are still traders, and the goal of a trader or investor is basically at the end of the day buy low, sell high. That does not mean you have to be buying the bottom, okay? Buying low is enough. We're not here to buy the lowest and sell the highest. Why do we never say buy the lowest, sell the highest? Because that's generally impossible. Not even experienced people can do it. Not even market legends like Warren Buffett is able to buy the bottom. Not even he. It's good enough to be buying low when you see something is undervalued and taking it to the upside, okay? And that's usually after corrections. In a correction, yes, you're probably also not going to be buying at the bottom, but at least you're going to be buying closer to the bottom than buying blindlessly when things are going up for a very long time. BET also something which I generally, BET is looking great on the weekly at least. Weekly, we have at a very sharp all-time high retest on BET. We have a structure break on BET. This is something which also is looking very strong, especially from the moment on. From the moment we broke this bearish order block, that's pretty much when it was go time, because it broke the last breaker. The last bearish order block was broken, and if Bitcoin is going to go to all-time highs, then BET is going to do as well. And this was being made by the founder of Mozilla Firefox, by the founder of JavaScript. So he's not just making any other project out there, and is also the creator of the browser that I'm using, the Basic Attention to the Brave browser, which is basically earning money by using a browser. It's not a lot, by the way, guys. Right now my BET is currently worth like $5, but at least you're getting money by using the internet. Does Chrome do that? Does Internet Explorer do that? No. And built-in ad blocker, etc., and so many benefits. More privacy, more security because it's completely decentralized, etc., etc. And that's most of the stuff I was actually thinking about talking, right? So most of my radar guys for this week is XRP and Zilliqa. I think they will be having some good performance to the upside as long as Bitcoin stays stable. The biggest thing you need to be wary of is, remember, when the daily on Bitcoin starts to paint bearish, a bearish pattern, something like this, how something like this would look. At some point in time, Bitcoin would be going up, and you see accumulation going on, for example. What was up? That was up, maybe something like that. Maybe even a liquidity grab could be. But once you see prices doing something bearish and breaking a previous demand level, then it's probably going to be following a retest back to supply levels. And then you see bearish break, and then it might be you might need to be changing your bias because we might potentially be going down, especially if we're in a sell zone and something like this presents itself in a sell zone. So be very careful of that. That's something I'm really taking my eyes on. But unless something like this happens, and unless I see nothing like this, then I will be taking trades to the upside, mainly going long on trades or buying investments for the long or short term. Because yeah, we're in an uptrend right now and we have an uptrend bias. Looking for shorts right now is not a smart thing to do unless you clearly see the momentum shift on Bitcoin. Okay, but everything is still looking bullish as ever. We see no lower highs being made, no lower lows being made. So remember, your trend is your friend. Always follow the trend and look for confirmation that follows your trend. If you see a bearish pattern right now in a bullish market, then don't follow it. Simple as that. Okay, guys, I will be finishing up today's call. Remember, on Friday are the educational sessions. So for both beginners and advanced people, because right now it's still for the beginners. We saw how to buy cryptocurrency, how to use a cryptocurrency exchange, but in the future we'll be going more in depth. So I'll expect you guys, everyone is welcome on our Friday educational sessions on how cryptocurrency works and the inner workings of cryptocurrency, or how to buy and sell something, etc., etc. So I will be expecting you on Friday. And otherwise, guys, if you're only interested in the technical analysis side of things or only in the price action side of things, then yeah, I will see you guys next week on Monday. As always, if you like the value that we share, make sure you share it with your friends. It's highly appreciated. And if you don't want to miss the future live streams, of course, or other YouTube content we provide, then make sure you are subscribed and, of course, have your notifications on so we can expect you each and every single week. Okay, guys? Good luck, bye bye, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.